There are hundreds of gardens and farms here in the city of Chicago. There's so much going on, and if you walk around your neighborhood, it's amazing to see what you might uncover. Urban farming is something that's been around since the development of the city of Chicago. It happens in raised beds on the ground.
Go.
It happens on rooftops and community gardens. And with families keeping chickens and bees in their own backyard. There are also small businesses who are trying to earn supplemental income or a living wage through the vehicle of urban agriculture. It's as diverse as the city is.
Over.
I've been beekeeping for 8 years now. It's one of the most beautiful things that I ever had done in my life. I live in Rogers Park, and I am a beekeeper. See, they belong there. I wanted to get into beekeeping because I read that the bees were disappearing. Especially now, since we have so many problems with poisons and climate change. I said, how can I help? And I started reading and said, well, if you do beekeeping in the cities that don't have all the tremendous amount of pesticides that are on the open fields, they have better chances of survival. So that's one of my things, is to help the survival of the species. Somebody has to do something.
Yeah. Wow. You are seeing one of the most wonderful things in nature. Bees being born. Look at that. See it? Look at that, look at that. Hello, girl.
To the party.
Welcome, look. That's it. She is born.
If we don't have bees, we are not going to have vegetables and fruits. 60% of everything that we eat is pollinated by bees and other pollinators. And we keep on killing them, we don't want to have nothing to eat. If you have bees in your garden and you have your plants, you're creating an ecosystem in your garden. When I say ecosystem, it's not only the bees and the plants, but everything that is in between.
If we're able to create more local food economies,
Okay, so 4 and 4, you're at 8.
then we won't be as reliant or vulnerable to just the international conventional food system. In our times when climate change is real and serious, the urban agriculture can be a strategy used for greater environmental sustainability and greater access to local food in case our current system cannot withstand itself or there's interruptions in that process.
There isn't a lot of space in the city to grow food in. I never imagined that I would be a rooftop farmer in the middle of Chicago. I am the farm director at Uncommon Ground Restaurant. We are home to the first certified organic rooftop farm in the country, located in the Edgewater neighborhood. This building was purchased in 2007 by our owners, who are Michael and Helen Cameron. They didn't have a plan to put a rooftop farm up here at all when they bought the building. They came to do the inspection, and she saw that vast open expanse, and she just yelled down to her husband, "Holy crap, we can grow food up here." We grow about 70 different crops and 150 different varieties. Look at that. We grow things as high value as we possibly can. So those certified organic herbs. We grew a pepper this season for the first time that's supposed to be the most expensive pepper in the world. They're like little tiny pea-sized peppers that are killer hot.
Community garden has a lot more than just growing vegetables. We are at the Ka'umba Triumph Community Garden. I have 14 garden members. They have their own raised beds that they do whatever they want to do. Some just do flowers, some do flowers and vegetables, some just do vegetables. This was my grandfather's property that he purchased in 1941. In 1976, both of my grandparents had passed away, and then my uncle had control of the mansion, and he did not have the same vision as my grandfather. So I asked my uncle, could I purchase it from him? And which I did in 1984. Because of the building being so deteriorated, it was an eyesore for the community, so I had to have it all torn down. So from that time until 2011, all I did was just maintain it, and that's when I created the Ka'umba Triumph Garden.
I'm not exactly sure whether I'm a city person or a farm person. Part of me really loves being in the city, and you can bike everywhere, take the train anywhere you want to go. But then part of me really loves wide open spaces. Having a little backyard chicken coop is kind of maybe the closest I'll get while we're here in Chicago. What do you girls think? A little bit of marrying the two worlds.
It's okay. Yeah. That's a good girl. Yeah, that's a good girl.
We've had chickens for about 8 years. We've lived in our house for about 10 years. So one of the first things we did when we moved in was to start planning and building a coop. This particular flock's quite young. They make noise every time they lay an egg. It seems a little bit of a surprise to them, perhaps, with a big kind of shout. Hens aren't as loud as a dog barking, but you'll definitely hear them throughout the day. The city of Chicago is actually pretty lenient in terms of the ability to raise farm animals. Any kind of ordinance would be in terms of noise.
first generation not born on the farm of many generations of their families. I am, with my husband David, organizing and have set up the Glen Art Farm. We've been around for almost 8 years. Currently we have 13 goats. We started with chickens and bees, and my husband caught me looking at Craigslist at goats for sale. And he says, well, why don't you get goats? And I said, oh no, there's just too much trouble. So we did it, and we bought 2 goats, and they had 2 babies, and then the next year they had twins.
Caroline, what? I'm coming. Baby, back. Baby, back. Baby, back.
My husband retired 2 years ago. When he retired, we became a formal farm. Up to that point, we were a hobby farm. They still are, in many respects, our pets, but we have formalized our farm status with the state of Illinois, the federal government, and the Department of Public Health. The urban impact is hard because we have to move them more. We basically have to make sure and watch our animals, 1, that they don't escape, and 2, that they're good neighbors, but 3, also that their health produces good milk.
I think one of the major challenges is like striking the balance of their comfort in a small space. So just making sure that they're kind of entertained and have something to do, which typically comes in the form of food.
One thing that we contend with is a lot more temperature fluctuation. We also have more wind. For every story you go up, the wind doubles. That tends to kind of dwarf our plants a little bit. The moment you pick something off of a vine, it starts losing nutritional value. We can really pick it at the heat of freshness and bring it right down to a guest plate. We're literal footprints for our food. We walk it downstairs and give it to our chef.
With the pollen. See that? Look at different colors of pollen, different flowers.
One of the beautiful parts of local honey is that the bees collect nectar and pollen from all the flowers in the neighborhood, a radius of 5 miles. And it's being said that the pollen that is contained in the honey helps people with allergies. We live for the high, on the high something like 40 to 50 pounds of honey for the winter. That's their own.
Honey.
The excess of that is what we extract. Now we use it for home consumption, and whatever is a surplus, we give it to friends and we sell it to neighbors. Excellent. I don't know when you were a kid that somebody gave you a little bit of honey, there was something different. When you grow up and you start going to different places and trying different honeys, and you start realizing, oh my God, this is a unique product. What do we do without it? I don't know.
The great thing about chickens is any of the waste from our kitchen, they eat all of the scraps. So we really don't have much in terms of food waste. They're so just like, what is going on? I know, what is going on? Yeah. In some ways, having chickens is a really great pet. It takes a little bit less work than a dog, say, but a little bit more work than a cat. course, the eggs are great. So it's one of the few pets that like provides you a tangible product that's usable. So having fresh eggs is kind of amazing.
It's like we're at crossroads of Chicago. We've had people from China, Ukraine, Bosnia, Russia, Mexico, and they just come in, they go, I love goat milk, I'm here for it. Okay, great, here you go. That's pretty funny. All right. That's it.
That's good stuff.
We are providing an agri-hood. And so an agri-hood is supposed to be considered a very healthy environment to raise your kids. We've had people move into the neighborhood and say, if those goats can be safe, so can my family.
The chickens for us in Chicago have been a really nice social group.
I know.
Kind of on a neighborhood level, like, people hear the chickens or come to our coop tours and that kind of thing and like talking about them. It's been a really neighborly addition to our backyard that I think that maybe we wouldn't have met as many people without.
When I decided to do this, the residents weren't really as receptive, but now the residents come outside. Now the residents speak to each other.
Careful. Boy, you woo! Y'all better keep yourself up in the house with these suckers here. No, don't.
Having a community garden is just not sitting down and stuff grows. There's a commitment, you have to have a passion for it, you have to maintain it. It's just like a baby. When you have an infant, it's like you have to have a passion that now I am responsible. And that's what a community garden is, it's responsibility.
I spend a lot of time with them. I spend 4 to 6 hours a day with them when they have babies and when we're taking care of them.
You're tough, Mama.
So yeah, there's a lot of connection there.
The love of bees is something that at the beginning you don't realize how wonderful they are.
Oh, nice.
But at the beginning it's like you're afraid of the bees. But once you start knowing their habits, let's put it that way, and they are beginning to know how you are, they sense the way that you treat them, then it's a relationship sometimes I feel like a father with 70,000 babies over there.
Come on, guys, let's get out.
Just taking care of them, making sure that they are fed, that they are healthy, year after year. So it's a wonderful experience.
People always ask, where do I start? And I said, start by putting something in the ground, right? Like, that's what you start with, and you learn from that.
Sometimes we come out here after we've done a work day and just sit on the platform and just have some wine and some cheese and just sit and just have a conversation. Just to get to know people. That's what I enjoy about a community garden.